In this video, I want to talk with you about a word that someone's been using on the channel, and I have not known this word, but he's used it a couple of times, and I respect the way that he is speaking. And I thought, I'm going to look this word up, and I'm going to see if it's actually in the word, because what I had, to be honest, one of the things that I thought was when he was saying it, that it was like since I didn't recognize it, I thought, I bet you this is some sort of a construct that man has come up with. Well, come to find out, it's not. It's actually a word that is used in the Word. And I kind of I'm very leery about constructs that man comes up with, because when we stop using the word, the language that God uses, we stop having the understanding that God's trying to bestow. So when I looked up the word, at first I looked up what it meant because I didn't know what it meant. And the word is progeny. And so I first looked it up and I thought, oh my goodness, this is exactly what we're supposed to be doing. This is exactly who we're supposed to be. And it really gets at this aspect of what God talks about in the Bible, what he's describing, that we're supposed to become holy as he is holy. We are made in his image. We are engrafted or adopted into sonship. We have to be reborn of heaven. We must become like a child, and obviously like a child with him, where we are submitting and we're lowering ourselves to that position of learning from, following, obeying, relying, humbled before him. So let me tell you what the definition is, in case you don't know what the definition is. You haven't heard this word either. The word is, again, progeny, Progeny, a descendant or the descendants of a person, animal, or plant, offspring. So I'm really hearing this as modeled after, in his image. I'm thinking of all of the things that I just outlined to you that he says in his word, that, from the very beginning, you must become holy as the Lord is holy. And if you think about the way that a child is with their parent, they want to be just like that parent. They want to dress like them. They want to talk like them. They want to do the things that they do. Even in their play, that's what comes out. It's not until they're adolescent that these things start to change, but God doesn't say become an adolescent. He says become like a child. So again, the reason why it took me a minute to look it up is because I kind of thought that it was, initially I think this is probably a human, man's construct, because I haven't seen that word in the word. And then I looked it up. I Googled it, typed in progeny and Bible, and there were 3 references that came up. I don't actually read these versions of the word. The Darby, HCSB, I don't know what that is, and ISV. These versions of the word are not familiar to me, but I'll tell you the three contexts where this word is being used. And behold, ye are risen up in your father's stead, a progeny of sinful men, to augment yet the fierce anger of Jehovah toward Israel. By the way, all of these contexts are regarding evil people. Doesn't matter. In so many contexts, we have the desire of God, the distortion of the devil. The desire of God, the distortion of the devil. So there's God's version, and then there's the devil's version. And part of the reason for that is because we are choosing our Father by choosing the way that we're going to behave, who we're going to follow, who's going to be our master, who's going to occupy us. So that completely makes sense. So let me read. So that was Numbers 32:14. In Psalm 78:51, it says, he struck all the firstborn in Egypt, the first progeny of the tents of Ham. Psalm 105:36, he struck all the firstborn in their land, all their first progeny. So very cool. I'm excited to learn this new word, and not so much for the word necessarily, but for the concept and the depth of understanding of what it is that we're doing here. And I think that it is absolutely a perfect way to describe what we are supposed to become, and that the way that this person is using this in the way that he describes things is absolutely perfect. That we are supposed to become like him as his progeny, as his offspring, in his image, in his likeness, modeled after him. And where does that begin? Is it us just modeling behaviors? No, we're modeling the heart of God, because from our hearts are going to come our behaviors, our thoughts, and our declarations. This has been God's desire from the very beginning. This is the reason he uses this language, that we are made in his image. We must become holy as he is holy. We must worship him in the spirit and in truth. We must be disciplined in our physical flesh, cut off from our sinful flesh, and living in the heart and spirit, because God is spirit. That's where he's communicating with us, is from his spirit to ours. He placed his spirit in our heart. He's cleaning us up. He's moving us, and he is making us new. So we have to be moved by his spirit for his purpose. And Paul says, we have died and Christ now lives through us. So I hope you'll take some time to think about what this actually means. What does this truly mean? Because it's really a perfect word to describe what we're doing. Not it alone, but the concept helps to bring all of these other instructions and commands and the nature of what he's doing inside of us. It helps to bring it to understanding. So I wouldn't say that I would replace everything. I'm just adding it to my repertoire of understanding. Yes, indeed, we are supposed to become his progeny, his offspring, modeled after him, changed, reborn of heaven. And I've told you in other videos that I really don't care for that saying, what would Jesus do? Because I think it's very superficial. And people come up with all kinds of ideas about what Jesus would do, and they come up with justifications and, false narratives, such as what kindness and love are. And therefore, if you're speaking truth, you're not speaking in love. No, love speaks truth. So what I prefer is when I'm reading the word and I'm seeing something that Jesus has done and the Holy Spirit presses that on me, I will sit with that, and I will, sit and think and meditate on what would his heart be, what is revealed in his heart by the way that he spoke, by the way he behaved, by the things he taught. What can I understand about his heart? That way, in the process, I'm not just mimicking a behavior, I'm being changed. What are the areas in my life that I need to be living this out? How is this applicable in my own life? Because it's one thing to look at it from a distance. It's one thing to do what counterfeit Christianity does, which is talk about overused terms and never actually live into it or talk about how they're living into it, such as being in God's image. It's not just a thing that God did. It is a responsibility. It's an obligation that we're living out. We are being raised up in our Father's stead, just as much as these sinful men were raised up in their Father's stead. And so if we are being raised up in his stead as objects of his mercy and his love, we have to be producing certain fruit. And in order to produce that fruit, our hearts have to be changed. Otherwise, those things are not going to come out of us. We truly have to become in his image. The fact that Jesus was here and he lived in this flesh, he was tempted in every way, but he didn't sin. I mean, that is a tall order, and none of us is capable of it, and yet we are still supposed to be aspiring to that. And in order for us to become like him and to stop sinning, he actually has to live through us. We have to be in his name. We have to be in his cause, in his reason. Our hearts have to be for him, not for self. Our hearts have to be for him in the same way that his heart was for the Father. The authority on which we speak, the glory for whom we speak, for the one who sent us, for the one who redeems us. So thank you, B. Moses Jorgensen, because you gave me something to think about and a new word to learn, a new concept to add to my repertoire, and to increase my depth of understanding of who I need to be. Thank you all for listening. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.